Yes, it is indeed time to get amplified. BC coming at you with all the latest news in the pro wrestling world, including Zelina Vega sending a strong statement to Hunter Hearst Helmsley and World Wrestling Entertainment. Not exactly thrilled with her booking as of late, or at least feels like she could and should be doing more. She's just not given that opportunity by Helmsley. We'll talk about it. Dustin Rhodes remaining defiant in recent talks about his AEW contract, and Ric Flair backtracking on his statement on who he feels should be, if anyone, getting that 16-time world championship record, breaking Ric Flair's record, currently tied, of course, with John Cena, but he's backtracking a little bit. So the whole wrestling world is kind of in this debate. If it comes down to these two, who should break that record? We'll talk about it. And I have the full ratings report, SmackDown, Raw, NXT. We're still waiting word on AEW, but I got the results from their show last night. They took a huge gamble. The entire first hour dedicated to one match. And hold up, but wait, there's more. Not even done with the cold open teaser yet, because the NXT Women's Champion recently name-dropped 3 massive names in the world of women's wrestling. 2 of those names are imminently on their way to NXT, and the third is a former multi-time champion, NXT and WWE's main roster, and the latter actually responded to Rok-C. So there's a lot to get to, little time to do it, so let's get to it right now. All right, guys, we're going to jump right into it. We're going to start with Zelina Vega, who this past Monday on Raw lost a match to Sonya Deville in roughly 60 seconds. It should come by no surprise that immediately afterwards, this was a big conversation in the wrestling world. A lot of fans just wondering if Hunter Hearst Helmsley actually has a plan for Zelina Vega in that company. Does WWE actually look at Zelina Vega like an actual valuable asset or just a hand? Because whether you like Zelina Vega or you don't, whether you care if she gets pushed or you don't, we all can agree that her booking has been more than inconsistent, like a roller coaster, up, down, all around. To the point where even Zelina Vega is now questioning her booking, not too thrilled with the way she's being booked. Probably with the way she's been being booked for the last 7 years since her debut on the main roster. And we know this by her own words. Zelina Vega recently saying the following. This was after her 60-second loss to Sonya Deville on Monday night. Zelina says, and I quote, "All my life I've heard my height holds me back. Today is no different. But there's only so much you can prove here and there. I've gotten to touch the ball, but never actually hold it. Give me the ball. If I drop it, then me. I'll fall back. But I'm ready to settle this," end quote. A huge statement to WWE in totality, because usually these wrestler frustrations can be kind of relaxed backstage by management. Right, you have conversations with the suits and ties, or maybe even directly with Hunter Hearst Helmsley. He'll give you a bunch of words that you want to hear, even if your booking doesn't change at all. At least you walk away feeling a little better because you were heard. and then sometimes it doesn't work. You feel like they didn't actually listen, or nothing changed. Everything they promised kind of fell to the wayside. Your concerns were swiped underneath the rug. And so then the wrestlers will kind of go their own route, hit their own platforms, and kind of speak on their frustrations. This is clearly one of those times where Zelina Vega feels, all right, dude, I'm putting in the work. I'm pretty damn good at this wrestling thing. I'm watching everybody else get good opportunities, or at least consistency. And it's like, I feel like I do the deed for Liv Morgan. I get it. I'm not going to get the title. I'll do the deed, no problem, but at least have something for me afterwards. Not a 60-second loss to Sonya Deville and no plan afterwards. So whether you like Zelina Vega or not, that's your prerogative, but there are stats to kind of back up Zelina's frustrations. Like, check this out. Zelina's last W on TV, her last victory on TV, you'd have to go back to December of 2023. And that was an 8-woman tag, by the way. That wasn't a one-on-one match. Just a W on TV. And that's why I always say wins and losses matter. It's not the actual number that matters. It's just about how we feel about a wrestler. Like, are they literally a winner or a loser? That's why wins and losses will always matter. And when you don't win a match in, 7 months? And the last one was an 8-woman tag, subconsciously fans are taking that in. That was her last W. And her last W even at a live event in totality, not just TV. You can include live events. Her last W, you'd have to go back to March, several months ago. And she's currently, by the way, on a 5-match losing streak. Since debuting on the main roster in 2018, she's only won 17 singles matches. That's not just TV, guys. That's in totality. PLEs, PPVs, Raws, SmackDowns, live events, main event. Zelina Vega has only won 17 singles matches in her main roster career. That's nearly as many championships as Charlotte Flair has won. Zelina has that many victories. Close to. Charlie sits at 14-ish? Zelina has 17 singles matches victory. That's in 7 years, only 17 one-on-one victories. In those 7 years, she's won a crown and a tag title. And a whole lot of triple-layered moose cake at catering. So it's two sides of the coin, right? Whether you feel that Zelina Vega has more than earned that right to get the ball. Not just deserved, but has earned that ball. And now it's time to see not just if she can score, but how many times she can score in that game. Or on the flip side of that equation, if you feel that you just have no connection with Zelina Vega, there's no reason to care. No matter which side of the equation, we all can agree that was a big statement to Helmsley and WWE. Because that's clearly who she's telling to give her the ball, right? She's not telling fans. She could be upset with fans saying, oh, it's your height, you'll never get anywhere, right? But when she says, give me the ball, she's not telling fans. Fans don't have the magic pen that Hunter Hearst Helmsley has. Fans don't put on the suit and tie that walks into Stamford, Connecticut. So when she says, give me the ball, if I drop it, I'll go to the back. But I'm ready to settle this. She's telling WWE, obviously. That's who she's saying, give me the ball. So, I mean, we all can agree that's a massive thing for her to kind of, this wasn't part of a promo. This wasn't backstage after Monday Night Raw with Kathy Kelly or Jackie Redmond. This was on her platform, her own time, saying, just kind of voicing out that frustration. For BC, if you follow this channel for any length of time, I'm high on Zelina Vega. I just am. The booking has never really been there. But every time she's in a big spot, and I only use the words big spot because anything lower than that, she only gets 60 seconds or 2 or 3 minutes. It's unfortunate. But whenever she gets a prime opportunity to showcase her skills and what she can bring to the table, I feel she knocks that ball out of the park, and you ain't going to find it. That's how hard she hits it. I honestly feel Zelina Vega, and I never go into these shows. I never thought of myself as this huge Zelina Vega supporter. She just makes me one every time because she's good. Like Monday, I thought that was a pretty flat program, and the rating, by the way, did back that up. We're going to go over that in a little bit. But for the most part, in totality, I felt that Raw was a flat show. One of the brightest parts of that show was actually Zelina. I'm not talking about her 60-second match, but there was a little backstage promo before that. She was talking about wanting another title opportunity down the line, and she was just nailing that promo. And then Sonya and Shayna and Zoe step up. And here you have this little, 5'11" of heaven, I call her, Zelina Vega. And she just does not back down. She hits all of her words. No hesitation, full of confidence. No stuttering, no lack of concentration. She just nailed that promo at a time where it was needed. This was a big situation where you have these 3 ladies towering over Zelina on this side. and Zelina just nailed it. And it was believable. And then you go out and you have a 60-second loss. But that's what she can do every time Zelina Vega. This is for me. Everybody else is going to be... I don't even blame anybody that has no connection or doesn't feel anything for Zelina when she steps through that curtain. I don't even blame fans because the company has not given you any reason to care. And she has not had many opportunities to showcase what she can do. But when she does, she nails it. Not just the Morgan match recently, but Puerto Rico Backlash. What she did with Ripley, she could have easily won that title, and that would have been more than believable with the match they had. There's been a lot of matches I've seen over the years at Zelina Vega when they accidentally gave her a few extra minutes and gave her the time of day. I've seen Zelina absolutely knock it out of the park or take that ball, score a touchdown when she was not supposed to score. So they brought her right back to catering or right back to a 2 or a 1 minute match or 6 or 7 losses in a row, 8, 9, 10 losses in a row, 17 victories in 7 years, 17 singles victories in 7 years. When the whole machine is behind people like Charlotte to get her 14 titles or whatever it is, that's not exactly right. Zelina is a lot better, even if you don't like Zelina. Again, that's your prerogative. That's totally cool. But I can tell you, she's a lot better than what she is given. She's not just a manager for Andrade or just a sidekick / side chick to the LWO. She's just a lot better than that. So to wrap this up and to reiterate, there's not many shows, if any, that I go into thinking, oh, Zelina Vega, man, that's going to be one of the brightest parts of the show. But usually when the show is done and we're going over these reviews, it's Zelina Vega that's one of the brightest parts of the show. And that's with the limited booking she's given. So a lot will be made about these words from Zelina. A lot of people will think she's ungrateful, right? Because that's what happens, especially when a female speaks up in WWE. They get labeled ungrateful. They should just be happy that they have a job in WWE, which, again, that's not a job in the realm of employment. They're independent contractors. So if they get devalued so badly and the fans really don't care because the booking has never been there for them, at any moment, Helmsley or Nick Khan or Ari, anybody in WWE, they can release, they can give Zelina Vega and any wrestler Das Boot. A contract with WWE only helps WWE. It gives all the control and power to the company. At any moment, Zelina can get Das Boot. So no, they shouldn't just be happy or just be grateful. They should always be looking at what more can I do, and especially if you feel like you can offer so much more. If you take a step back and you ask that question, can I be or am I a reliability or a liability to this company? You hope that the answer is a reliability. And if that is the case, give me more. And that's what Zelina Vega is asking for. And by going this route, you got to think that those frustrations were already there beforehand in that locker room. That is the talk on Zelina Vega. Interesting, man. Very interesting, and as more and more females start coming in, we're going to talk about a couple more, actually, that are coming down to NXT. The NXT women's roster is it's bulking up. If it wasn't already, to look at it now, you're going to start running out of placement. A lot of these shows a lot of it is women heavy for NXT, and they're still not fitting in over 40% of the ladies, and they just keep adding more. It does bring up the discussion, main roster-wise. Is there going to be a time where you have to develop 2 mid-card titles for the ladies? If that's the case, do you scrap the tag titles? There's been a report that there is already an IC and a U.S. Women's Championship being, or at least put into creation. So they're already being made. When or if they actually get utilized and put into play for the women's division on the main roster, that remains to be seen. But that's an interesting conversation in itself. Is that too many titles when the ladies are not getting a good amount of time already. So for instance, if you only have 1 or 2 women's matches on a Raw or SmackDown, and you have 3 different sets of titles, a tag, a world for each show, and a mid-card for each show, and you only have 1 or 2 tops women's matches, are we just flooded with titles for the... It brings up a lot of interesting conversation. But what I do know is Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and this goes for a lot of the bookers, they haven't found the right recipe for making women's wrestling work, at least here in the States. There's just this disconnect. In 60-second matches with talent like Zelina Vega is not going to help the matter at all. And then it leads to the frustration with the talent, and then you're in a position like Zelina just found herself in. So, interesting, man. She says, give me the ball. If I drop it, then fuck me. I'll go to the back of the line. Zelina Vega, that little spitfire from NYC, man. Moving on. Let's go to Dustin Rhodes. Dustin Rhodes recently confirming that his AEW contract does indeed expire in September. That's just a couple of months away. Dustin says the following, and I quote, "Geez, guys, yes, my contract is up in September. And no, I am absolutely not done. Having the best matches of my life, and hopefully, God willing, I will get to retire on my own terms, respected with a full heart. Hopefully negotiations go well because I am damn worth the world. I'll finish up when I am ready and how I envision my retirement. So hold off, guys. This biz is my life and I love doing it for you while still having fun and able. Thank you all for your continued love and support." End quote. Now that line there, hopefully negotiations go well because I am damn worth the world. A lot of fans jumping to that conclusion, right? I am damn worth the world wrestling entertainment. Hopefully negotiations go well. I'm not jumping to that length, but that's what a lot of fans are trying to link the two. But it does raise the conversation. Guys, it has to be had. This was one of the biggest... This was one of those components the last 2 years, but especially this year when I felt that Cody and Roman needed that extra layer. I don't care if it's Paul Heyman and Brandy Rhodes going back and forth on the mic, but it needed something more with the whole Roman and his family. You kind of felt like Cody needed his. And of course, Dustin was locked down in that contract with AEW. There's just so much story to tell that has to be told before Dustin and or Cody retires. And I just don't see Cody going back to AEW, guys. I mean, he's one of the biggest stars in the company now. He's about to become overshadowed by a returning Roman. So Cody will become the second biggest star in the company. But still, it looks like he's there till his retirement. And then I just feel like he's a WWE lifer at that point. They're going to want to lock him down like John Cena to be that kind of spokesperson for the company. So this you have to look at as the only real time where Cody and Dustin can finish up their story, and Dustin can finally see if maybe under this new regime, sort of, still kind of the old regime. A lot of people are still there, and it's Hunter Hearst Helmsley who worked directly under Kennedy McMahon. But this is the time. A new deal would at least take Dustin to about 3 years, right, with AEW. And at that point, you gotta feel the body would just give up at that point, and that would be it. It just raises the discussion. Would now be the time to make that jump to WWE and at least end that chapter once and for all? It's a conversation. The Cody Rhodes situation has always kind of called for that initial help. And if we need to see Cody and Dustin lock it up once more, then I am more than okay whipping out the wallet. You pick the card, because that would just be gold. If the story is told as beautifully as it should be, Cody versus Dustin. But even before that, just seeing Dustin fight alongside his brother to fend off the bloodline, even if it's not the Roman Reigns variation. If his contract ends in September, he does make the jump You know you're going to get something big for Survivor Series, probably War Games. It's going to be the team of Roman and Cody against this variation of the bloodline, more than likely, right? So instead of just the usual suspects of Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, what if Dustin Rhodes is fighting alongside Cody? War Games, Survivor Series. I've always put Dustin Rhodes up on a pedestal because I've always felt, and I still do today, that he is one of the best pro wrestlers on the planet. And it's fitting that his name back in the day for WCW and WWF was The Natural Dustin Rhodes. And it's fitting because everything seems to come so naturally in that ring to Dustin Rhodes. Everything he does is just so fluent and damn near flawless. And I've said it once, I've said it a billion times, and I'll say it a billion more. The best scoop slam I've ever seen in this business, from Randy Orton and Dustin Rhodes. It's like running water, like they came out of the womb doing scoop slams. Like the second Dustin was born, the Doc got scoop slammed. It's just so, it's a thing of beauty. And that's just how he is in the ring. It's like running water. He's just so fluent. It's natural. So I've been an advocate on this channel for him to have one last badass run, WWE or AEW. But somebody, whether it's Hunter Hearst Helmsley or Tony Khan, is somebody give this dude a run that he has earned. Because still to this day, he can go and rock it out. Maybe lost a step, okay, from the actual prime of Dustin. But damn, he's just so good. And it's just one of those stories where there's more for that dude. There's more accomplishments to be had for Dustin. That is clear as day. And I'm glad to hear him say, not yet, not done. Contract is up in September, but I'm going to renew at least one more contract. Does he stay with AEW? And if that's the case, does Tony Khan give him a badass run? Or does he continue to kind of get booked like he is now, kind of lost in the shuffle? Because that's what he is. And if he goes to WWE, will he at least be given the opportunity to accomplish more than he ever did previously in that company? I'm not saying win world titles at WrestleMania, but perhaps, maybe, just do a little bit more than being a stuttering Goldust. And where would you guys want to see him end or wrap up his career? Because this next contract could indeed be his final in-ring contract, actually doing what he does. Does he wrap it up in AEW? Is that the best fit for him? The best stories to be told? Or do you feel it would be better if he wrapped it up in WWE? Work with your brother one last time, maybe side by side, then face each other in a good program, then go off on your own. See what you can accomplish. See if you can do a lot more than you were previously allowed in WWE. Would you have him stay in AEW or bet on himself like Cody did and see what he could do one last run in WWE? It sounds like he's for the most part happy in AEW. He says he hopes negotiations go well. He doesn't exactly say with who. He says, I'm damn worth the world, which a lot of people equated to World Wrestling Entertainment. But sounds like he's happy there. He's a big presence backstage. He loves to help out the younger wrestlers. He is outspoken, though. He says he wished more listened. He offers all this advice, and they keep doing the kind of the same thing. Instead of working on psychology or promos or this and the other thing, they're just playing video games, or they're kind of like, yeah, I'll work on it. So just like The Undertaker said that, a lot of the younger wrestlers today, they don't want to hear Mark Calloway, The Undertaker, or Dustin Rhodes. And these are, could you imagine Undertaker and Dustin Rhodes trying to give you advice and not really taking it? But just like Undertaker, Dustin also said, a lot of times they don't take it or they don't want it. They don't walk up. They don't ask for any. They just think they got it all covered. And then they wonder why there's not really any reaction or people really don't care. A minute after your match, you're already forgotten about. Dustin Rhodes, man. I had to speak on that because, again, I put him on a pedestal because I truly, to this day, I feel he's one of the best pro wrestlers on the planet. He's always just, what he does in the ring just captivates me. What he's able to do character-wise, whether you liked Goldust or not, he took that And he made it something that you always had to kind of like, even if you're trying to walk away, you're like, oh man, what is Goldust going to do? What do they got Goldust doing? Because you knew no matter what they give him, Goldust is knocking out of the park. All the variations of Goldust on four different times with WWE, or 4 different runs. Dustin Rhodes' contract ends in September. He is far from done, and BC has always said, I want to see one more big run. This is the time. Either Tony Khan's got to give it to him, or Hunter Hearst Helmsley. We'll see where he ends up. It's interesting with Cody Rhodes fending off this bloodline, and his brother's contract ends in 2 months. Survivor Series coming up. If there was ever a time, you can see why a lot of fans are like, this is it. Oh, Ric Flair. Ric Flair. Let's go over to Ric Flair. Setting the record straight. Now, recently, Flair made a lot of news because, John Cena, he's got his retirement world tour, kind of like the Sting tour from last year. This is going to be John Cena's retirement tour. And a lot of people know that he's tied with Ric Flair. One of the biggest questions in the pro wrestling world, do you have John Cena win that title for his last match, vacate it the next day, ride off into the sunset? One of the coolest stories in pro wrestling, right? His last match, and he gets the record. Like, who could have scripted that any better on a scripted show? WWE, they went and did it. Not saying that should happen, but I mean, that's a very big possibility. It's something that's on the table for Hunter Hearst Helmsley WWE. So that's been a big conversation. Ric Flair's been asked about it. He finally answered it this past week. He said he is more than okay. Not just John Cena. He said he would also be okay if Randy Orton was to get that record. Orton is not far behind. You guys keep telling me in the live streams how many he has, and I keep forgetting. I want to say 14, but then I think you guys may have said 12. And I want to say 14. But I also thought Charlotte Flair was 14. So maybe Charlotte's 12, or maybe they're both 14. Randy Orton's a couple behind. That's the point. Maybe it is 14. Anyway, yeah, that's going to bother me. I got to find that out. Anyway, Randy Orton's not far behind. Ric Flair knows that. Ric Flair has also said, Randy Orton, if he gets it, I'll be the first to shake his hand. So this, I don't know why this became a big thing afterwards. A lot of people are like, well, what about Charlotte? That's your daughter, and she's already got, 14, something like that. So then he had to go and clarify. He's kind of backtracking. Ric Flair now says this, and I quote, setting the record straight. Let's just set the record straight once and for all, he says. My first choice would obviously be the Queen, Charlotte. I think the world of my best friend, John Cena, or my friend, not best friend, my friend, John Cena. And I will be the first, as I said, to shake his hand and congratulate him if he breaks it. But that did not do anything to kind of calm down the conversation, put a lid on the pot of boiling water. If anything, that pot started to boil over because the conversation then went into, whoa, hold on. John Cena, Randy Orton is the conversation. Of course, Charlotte's going to get it. That's what they've been kind of trying to create ever since she's gotten to the main roster. Thus, so many wins and losses with her championship, winning it for a few months, losing it, getting it right back, 3 separate times with Sasha Banks, right? And all of a sudden, before you know it, she's more than 10, 11, 12 plus times champion. So we all know they're headed that way anyway, but not many people thought she'd be the first to do it. Because that would not hold, or at least for many fans, that wouldn't carry the same weight as somebody like Cena or an Orton. Or somebody with that world title, right? A lot of people would think, no offense to the women's championship, but you can't have it broke with the women's championship. It's 2 totally different legacies. Like the titles alone, 2 totally different legacies. The men's world championship and the variations over the years of the women's championship. While a cool moment for Charlotte and a cool little story, it's 2 totally different legacies with the championship. I mean, I can see where a lot of fans are like, whoa, that you can't do that. She can't be the first. So would WWE do that? Would they actually have Charlotte Flair be the first? And do you guys think, the question's for you, do you think that would be the most impactful? More impactful than John Cena breaking the record or Randy Orton or whoever would be close to them? Or do you think Charlotte Flair, who still, don't forget guys, to this day, as many years as she's been on that main roster, as many championships as she has won, there's still a massive part of the audience that she doesn't connect with. That's why she has turned face and heel 1,000 times. From a Vincent Kennedy to a Paul Levesque McMahon, they don't know kind of where to place her. And when they're in doubt, they don't know where to turn next. They just turn her again, face, heel. She's out there getting such a mixed reaction. She gets flustered. Before you know it, she's a face, but she cuts a heel promo. So there's a lot of just a lack of connection. Is that the best way to go? If WWE goes Charlotte Flair, is Charlie the best option over somebody like Cena or Orton? It's a question. And Ric Flair, I think he was trying to ease the conversation. Hold on. I'm not saying my daughter shouldn't be it, because a lot of people were like, oh, well, you didn't even put Charlotte in there. But then once he totally backtracked and said, of course, Charlotte's the first one I would have break my record. That's when fans were like, "Oh, I think we went too far. Nobody's saying Charlotte should be the first one to break it just because it's your daughter." With the amount of time that she's been in the company. I mean, Ric Flair, decades in the business, 16. Decades. Charlie Flair, barely 10-ish, maybe 10. What'd she say to Rok-C? 11 years since she got to NXT, I think it was. So main roster would be what, 10? So the point is, I mean, that's why a lot of fans are like, hold on, you can't do in 10 years what this dude did in 30, 40, whatever it is. More, maybe. So, I don't know. It's a conversation, man. I can tell you this. My take on it, if that was to happen, good for Charlie, Ashley Flair, for sure. Sweetheart of a person. In the wrestling world, Charlotte Flair, the character and all of that would be underwhelming for me. I mean, this is a record that many of us for years thought would never be broken. The fact that we're even talking about a Cena or an Orton possibly breaking it, that's wild. And then in the past few years, you just see Charlotte just get title, lose it, title, lose it, title, lose it. Before you know it, they patent her stats so much. Now we're talking about Charlotte Flair getting the record. It's underwhelming for me, for sure. But I'm sure a lot of people would love it. And then there are a lot of people like BC, like, no, that is not the best moment you can get out of something that many of us thought was never going to be broken. Remains to be seen. With this company, I always said the only person that loves Charlotte Flair more than Vincent Kennedy was indeed Hunter Hearst Helmsley. So it could not be Cena or Orton or anybody. It could be Charlotte Flair. And if that's the case, they just better do it I would say work on her character so that she can get more people just captivated. They don't even got to be fans of Charlotte. Just be captivated by what she's doing, you know? Be interested, care about what she's doing. Do that first if you're going to have her beat a record like that. But if she just wins a title and wins another, it's the same rinse and repeat process. We've seen her win a dozen plus championships. And it's the same result, right? The reaction kind of diminishes afterwards. It's kind of forgettable. Most people don't remember a lot of Charlotte's title reigns. And that's saying something because she's had more than a dozen. Conversation rages on until somebody, if anybody, beats Ric Flair's championship record. Again, currently tied with John Cena, or Cena's tied with Flair. I want to stay with Charlotte Flair for a second here. Rok-C recently, this past week. Rok-C, just an incredible promo by Rok-C. She was really owning that microphone. And Rok-C, just talking about the disrespect she feels she's getting. She's winning all these matches. He has this title. She feels she's having this prestigious championship title reign. And she literally said this, name dropped some big talent that's coming to NXT. She said, and all anybody wants to talk about is how Julia is coming. Julia is going to come to NXT. And when she does, Roxanne Perez's title reign is over because it's Julia. And then she says, and then Stephanie Vacure's coming. When Stephanie comes over, she's going to roll over the entire women's division of NXT. It's Stephanie. Rok-C. She was actually name dropping them, and she just it was so impassioned you believed. She was kind of frustrated that everyone's overlooking her. And then she even talked Asuka, Rhea Ripley, and Charlotte Flair, talking about how Charlotte Flair, I think she said 13 years ago, Charlotte Flair debuted in NXT. But the truth is, no matter all the accomplishments and all of that, Rok-C is on pace to actually beat Charlotte Flair's accomplishments. So this actually led Charlotte Flair, and again, just such a good promo by Rok-C. Charlotte Flair actually responded. Charlotte says, and I quote to Rok-C, "You almost got it right. It's been 11. So 11 years since she's gotten NXT. So again, her main roster, I guess, is roughly 10, if not a little less, 9 or 10 years. But she tells Rok-C it's been 11. But thank you. I really do have the best fans." She calls Rok-C just a fan. "Thanks for thinking about me and talking about me. I really do have the best fans." She says, "Keep doing your thing. We'll meet in the ring one day." So she does. She leaves that door open for a one-on-one match, hopefully, right? We don't see no tag team match. Charlotte Flair, Rok-C. Not in NXT. Charlotte can't go to NXT. I will say that. Whether there's a connection to Charlotte or not, she definitely cannot go back to NXT. Not somebody like Charlotte. But when Rok-C gets to the main roster, yeah, they're going to rock. And I love how they're already planting those seeds. But Charlotte Flair responds to the NXT Women's Champion. I like that. I really do have the best fans. And then she tells her, one day, we'll meet in that ring. Pretty cool. As for Julia and Stephanie Victor, now that's going to be a whole nother sitch. Which one defeats Rok-C for that title? A lot of people believe it's Julia. They could give Stephanie the rocket when she gets there. And then the third question, do either of them beat Rok-C? Is it somebody entirely different? When Jordynne Grace's contract is up in January, around WrestleMania weekend, does Jordynne Grace, is she in WWE in January? Is she entering that Rumble? And is Jordynne Grace taking the championship if Rok-C still has it? And it's not Julia, and it's not Stephanie. Moving on to the ratings. This week's ratings report, we'll start with SmackDown. SmackDown last week pulling a 226. This week, 235. So a 235 up from a 226. Almost 100,000 viewer increase. Not what they have pulled in the past, but anytime you have an uptick and you're not going the other way, BC says that is a good thing. SmackDown, take it, run, don't look back. 2.35. Monday Night Raw. A massive, colossal hit of over 200,000 viewer loss. This week, or last week, Raw pulling a 1.87. I think that was the post Money in the Bank, I want to say. So a big increase there. And Rhea Ripley, talk of Rhea showing up. The CM Punk and Drew McIntyre sitch. So they pulled a 1.8. The question was going to be, can they sustain that? This week, that 1.8 some odd went down to a 1.67. Back down to the 1.6s. Over 200,000 viewers. A lot of people are blaming the home run derby. There was the convention as well. Not a lot of people are using that excuse, though. It's the home run derby, which actually featured no big stars. Like, for instance, my Yankees, the 2 All-Stars in the actual All-Star game, Soto and Judge, for instance, neither of them participating. All of the major teams pulling their players. They didn't want them participating. Players didn't want to participate. They say that it actually, it does something to their swing and it gets them off their pacing. So when it's time for the second half of the season, they're kind of off from the home run derby. So that's why you guys don't see a lot of big stars in the derby anymore. And also, ESPN did not pull the number that they wanted for the Derby anyway. So it's funny that everybody is just claiming that over 200,000 viewers were lost just because of this secondary Derby. Not buying it at all. Not at all. This is a live professional wrestling show. You need to captivate your audience. They can switch back and forth if they want, but not for a 1.67. That's unacceptable. To watch a bunch of mid-carders try to hit home runs. There's no way. There's no way. That is a 1.67. That is an over 200,000 viewer loss. And again, if you caught the review, We went over it. We dissected segment for segment. That was a flat show with not much that was actually memorable. Not much, if anything, would you go back and watch. So I told you guys, I mean, this is going to be one of those shows that was so flat that I would not be shocked if they lost a lot of viewers. Sure enough, 167. NXT's rating pulled in a 610,000. That is down 46K from last week's 656,000. Last week was big talk of Joe Hendry being on. There was the tease at the end, just like at Heatwave. I think it was Heatwave. So they did have the teaser on it. A little bit of a better show last week as well. So the rating showed that 656. Have to wait to see if JR9 has an NXT report this week to see if this was a good show or not. I was only able to see Rok-C's promo. That was really good. But it not a huge drop. We've seen NXT drop to 500K plus semod. So they kept above 6, right? They kept their head above water. 46,000 lost, but they kept over 6. If this past week was a good show, maybe they can carry some momentum, grab some of those viewers that they lost. Again, you do have the convention going on this week. I'm surprised, again, that wasn't used as an excuse for Monday. Maybe that gave a little bit of a hit on Tuesday. As far as Dynamite's number, guys, I don't have that yet. Still too early for Dynamite. We'll be on the lookout for that. Now, that's going to be one of those numbers, too. I'm very interested in. They took a major gamble. Dynamite this week, the whole first hour dedicated to MJF and Will Ospreay, a 58-minute match that went to the very final seconds where MJF, spoiler, I told you, we're going to go over a little bit of the results anyway. I told you in the teaser. So, of course, it's a spoiler. MJF defeating Ospreay in the final seconds. And they gave them the whole first hour. A lot of fans do feel that the second hour was then rushed because they try to put a bunch of segments together. But the main stories to come out of that second hour, Mercedes Moné defeating Nyla Rose, post-match Britt Baker with the attack on Moné. I love how they also had Mercedes. She's trying to put in that lockjaw, right? She tried to put in Britt Baker's move. That probably pissed her off a little bit more. But Baker and Moné continuing what they have going. And then Swerve and Okada was the main event, went down to a DQ. Little, not fully satisfying. I totally get why they did it, trying to protect both. Maybe we could have went about it a little bit better. I mean, when you start with a 58-minute match like that, you know what I mean? And then you go to Okada and Swerve ending in a DQ. I mean, totally different sides of the spectrum. Hour 2, a little bit more rough. Hour 1, and not a lot that you really have to, not a lot to overthink. They put 2 dudes in the ring. They said, you got an hour. So interested to see how you guys feel about it. And we're going to find out when the rating comes out how everybody felt about it. Because that is a huge gamble. This is either going to pay off and they'll finally get over 700,000 viewers and start to work their way back to 800, which they have not done in months, or they're going to be in the low 600s, maybe mid to low 600s because it didn't pay off. It's going to be very interesting to see Dynamite's number. Guys, that's what I got for you, man. A lot of good conversation, a lot in the news for the pro wrestling world. I appreciate the support always, guys. Until next time, and there will be that next time. Top guys, we are out. BC in the unit. Saying check you. Peace. Stay amplified.